Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So yesterday was quite the day. Day 4 of spoiler season is in the books, and it ended with Henzi Toolbox Torre, a commander that I definitely want to break. So to see what my plan is to do just that, make sure you check out that episode at some point, but not before you watch this episode on Rocco Cabaretti Caterer, because with this commander, any creature can be your commander. Well, kind of. Now, of course, before we jump into this episode, though, make sure you blame Eddie in the comments below, because if I make any mistakes on this episode or any other episode, or any mistakes at all, it's always Eddie's fault, not mine. Now, with that said, let's jump into it. So, Rocco Cabaretti Caterer is a one-of-a-kind commander that we have never seen before, and not just because I'm pretty sure this is Magic's first official caterer, so congratulations, Rocco. Regardless, it is a 3/1 Elf Druid that costs X, red, green, white. And Rocco has, when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So this is a very powerful effect for a lot of reasons, and again, one that we really haven't seen from the command zone. Now, we have seen other commanders that can tutor, but there aren't very many of those, number one. Number two, none of those commanders, at least to my knowledge, can tutor another creature directly into play. So obviously, there are a lot of factors going on with this, and a lot of implications from this commander just existing. And perhaps the biggest of those implications is that now you can build your entire deck around a single creature that isn't even legendary. So if you've always wanted to do that, well then congratulations. Okay, well, as long as the creature, fits in the Naya color identity, I should say. And unless your opponents can, either stifle that trigger or they actually just counter Rocco before it enters the battlefield, you are getting that creature into play, and your opponents might not know what in the world you are tutoring for until it is too late. Another implication might be, well, you might really enjoy a commander that is, one or two colors within these color pairings, but you maybe want them to have, 3 colors instead. So you could just say, all right, I'm going to have this entire deck built around maybe this other legendary creature. Maybe that's a, monocolored creature that you feel like, well, would just perform better if you had 3 colors. Now, obviously, when you are building around another creature in the 99, it's not actually your commander, so you are going to need ways to actually, get it back. Because if it's dealt with, well, it's going to be in your graveyard. It doesn't go back to your command zone. So, yeah, make sure you have ways to get it back. And of course, Rocco can actually help out with that as well. If you've got other creatures with other, abilities or ETBs or whatnot that can help you, get a creature back from your graveyard, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, it can definitely be a risky play to build completely around one card in the 99, but it can also be a very fun strategy if you've always wanted a certain creature to be legendary, or to have access to more colors. You know what I mean? That being said, of course, another direction that you can take this commander is a complete combo route where you either, go get certain creatures that can combo together, or, you just have a ton of combo pieces in this deck that combo with a singular creature, and then once you get one of those combo pieces in play, you just tutor for that specific creature that combos, and you win! Now, I will mention that obviously certain playgroups might not be okay with that, so make sure you ask your playgroup ahead of time before you build a combo-centric deck around Rocco. And of course, another direction that you could take this commander is just kind of allowing it to be a toolbox commander where you go tutor up the right creature for the right situation that you're in. If you need to get rid of an artifact or an enchantment, cool, go tutor up for Reclamation Sage, and then maybe you've got other things that can blink as well, so maybe you go tutor for Restoration Angel at some point, and yeah, there's different directions you can take this. Now before we jump into the cards I'm going to be talking about with this commander, just really quick, there is a link in the description below to those cards, because, well, some of you out there have been asking, hey, when you talk about cards that work with a commander, do you mind just, making a list that we have easy access to just in case we want to pick up some of those cards? And sure, there you go. When exciting commanders are spoiled during spoiler season, sometimes certain cards that work well with that commander tend to go up in price and can go up in price kind of quickly sometimes. But with that said, let's jump into the cards. Now, the first card that came to my mind with this commander is Tamanoa, and I actually did an episode where I highlighted this as a creature that definitely should have been legendary. I mean, everything about this screams legendary except for the fact that it's missing that little piece of text on it that says legendary creature. Tamanoa is a 2/4 spirit that costs red, green, white, and it says whenever a non-creature source you control deals damage, you gain that much life. So yeah, that is a very legendary effect on a very legendarily named card, and yeah, this would be a very popular and very fun commander if it did exist. Exist as a commander, which it kind of does now with Rocco. Because again, essentially for 6 mana, by casting Rocco with 3 and then X, you can go get Tamanoa right into play. And yeah, with this, your deck could kind of be like Fire Song, but to the max, or even kind of a more group sluggy version of Fire Song as well. Because, yeah, if you've got things in play like Mana Barbs, which is going to deal damage to players when they tap lands for mana, well, because that is a non-creature source, you are gaining life whenever that happens. Now, obviously, that cancels out whenever, you tap lands, but when your opponents do so, you're gaining life. So, obviously, in this kind of a group slug kind of deck, you can tip the scales in your favor. So, yeah, it can be a lot more potent than Fire Song because it also gives you access to green, and it counts all non-creature sources, not just instants and sorceries. This counts, enchantments, artifacts. Yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do with it. That being said, again, if you are going to build around, a specific creature in the 99, you need to make sure that you can protect it, and then also, that you can get it back if it's dealt with. And that probably includes Exile as well, so Rift Sower might be something you might need to go get. But yeah, I can definitely see a good amount of people out there that have been waiting for Tamanoa to be legendary to just, build this deck and actually utilize it as a commander. Now, another one that I do want to highlight, which unfortunately is on the reserve list, and I think it's around $25 or so at this point, is Femur Enchantress. This is the kind of creature that has an effect that when I saw it, I was like, oh, why isn't this legendary? There are so many exciting things you can do with this. It's a 1/2 human druid for green-white that says whatever enchantment is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So obviously this counts not only your own enchantments, but also your opponent's as well. And keep in mind, again, since you are playing this in a Rocco deck, well, this is basically going to cost 5 mana to get out with Rocco, 3 plus 2 for the X. And yeah, you also get an additional color, that you wouldn't have got if this actually was a legendary creature. You get red in addition. But yeah, this is kind of like a reverse Enchantress effect because, most Enchantress effects out there are like, hey, whenever you cast an enchantment or whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you draw a card. This one's on the other side, whenever your enchantments leave play. And there are plenty of fantastic enchantments out there that you can essentially get into play and sacrifice when you need to start drawing cards, and other kinds of ways that you can use and abuse enchantments by getting them out, getting them back into play, sacrificing them, and yeah, just getting a ton of value. Now, will there be anywhere near as many decks built around this as a, pseudo-commander in a Rocco deck versus, Tamanoa? Probably not. That being said, I think it's spicy, and I'm sure there are plenty of other creatures out there that players have been just waiting for a creature like them that is legendary, and now, as long as that creature is a Naya, you can essentially build around that creature with Rocco. Or again, you could go a combo route with cards like Femur Sabertooth and Dockside Extortionist. Femur Sabertooth is a 4/3 cat that costs 2 green, so again, with Rocco, if you're going to tutor this out, that would cost 7 mana in total. It has pay 1 and a green, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Femur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So with this, when you've got the mana for it obviously, you can then return Rocco back to your hand for 2 mana. And then when you recast Rocco from your hand, this time for 5 mana in total, you go get Dockside Extortionist. It is a very powerful card, a 1/2 Goblin Pirate for just 1 and a red that says when it enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. So essentially, if your opponents have 5 or more artifacts and or enchantments, you just make infinite mana and you basically just easily win from here. Because Dockside's going to come into play, you make 5 treasures, you use 2 of them to bounce Dockside back to your hand, then you use 2 of them to recast Dockside, then you make 5 more treasures, and essentially every single time you net 1 treasure. So you've got infinite mana and a way to bounce your commander back to your hand repeatedly with Femur Sabertooth, and of course your commander can just, keep tutoring out every single creature in your deck essentially. Yeah, you're going to find ways to win from there. Now, is this entire combo kind of mana intensive? Yeah, I mean, you are in green, so you've got plenty of ways to, ramp quickly, but still, it is kind of mana intensive, and your opponents might see this coming, when you get Femur Sabertooth in play first, so keep that in mind. But yeah, of course, there are very powerful things that you can do with a commander that can tutor out any creature. So obviously, this might not be the only combo in your deck. Of course, another combo that you have access to is a Kiki combo, which works with a couple of cards. Two that I'm going to point out are Zealous Conscripts and Combat Celebrant. Kiki is a 2/2 Goblin Shaman with haste that has tap, create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control. The token gets haste, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. And this, of course, combos with cards like Zealous Conscripts and Combat Celebrant. Zealous Conscripts has, when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent until end of turn. Untap that permanent, gains haste until end of turn. So with this, you essentially can untap Kiki when it comes into play, so then you tap Kiki, make another copy of Zealous Conscripts, which when it comes into play untaps Kiki, and you see where this is going, infinite Zealous Conscripts. Or an even less mana-intensive version of this combo, because you're saving 2 on it, is going to be Combat Celebrant. It has, if it hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks. When you do, untap all other creatures you control, and after this phase, additional combat phase. So basically, you tap Kiki and you make a copy of it, and you just basically keep getting infinite combats, because, well, you're exerting a new Combat Celebrant every time. Now, that being said, obviously it's a 2-creature combo, so you would obviously need one of the pieces already in play to just tutor out the other piece to win, or you would need Rocco to go away, or go back to your hand, or go to the command zone, or whatnot to essentially recast so that you could actually get the other piece. That being said, if you're building in a bunch of combo pieces into your deck that essentially you just need a tutor for one of the pieces when you've got the other one ready, you can do some pretty powerful things. And speaking of powerful things, of course there's Food Chain. My goodness, is this an expensive and very powerful card. It's a very old card, so I'm going to read its Oracle text. It's an enchantment that costs 2 and a green. It says, exile a creature you control, add X mana of any one color, where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. So once you get this in play, all you'd have to do with your commander is essentially spend 6 mana, again, assuming this is the first time you're casting your commander, going and getting either Eternal Scourge or Squee the Immortal. Eternal Scourge may be cast from exile, and then Squee the Immortal may also be cast from exile, or your graveyard. So essentially what you would do is just exile, whichever one you got. Let's say Eternal Scourge with Food Chain, you'd add 4 mana of any one color, and then Eternal Scourge is in exile, which you can cast from exile, so you do so for 3 mana. Then you exile it again, adding another mana of any color to your mana pool essentially, so you can just keep doing this over and over again for infinite mana of all colors. Then of course, you can just keep casting and exiling your commander over and over again with Food Chain, infinitely, and you can go get every single creature in your deck, and you've got plenty of ways to win from there. But of course, there are other commanders out there that are probably a lot more competitive that are broken with Food Chain. That being said, again, as long as you just get Food Chain out and you've got this in your deck, well, you can just go get the combo and win. And speaking of which, again, if you're going for this kind of go-wide combo strategy, let's just call it, where you just have a bunch of singular combo pieces in the deck that can work well with it, with anything like, Basalt Monolith, that might be a card that can actually fit in the deck pretty well. It's an artifact that costs 3, and it doesn't untap during your untap step, and it can tap for 3 mana, and by paying 3, you untap it. So this actually might just help you in the deck, because again, hey, I need a good amount of mana to actually, pump into that X, for my commander to go tutor out what I want to tutor out, so Basalt Monolith might be a good card just in the deck as it is. And of course, if you've got Basalt Monolith and you're going for a combo strategy, well, you might as well go tutor up Zerta the Dawnwaker. It has abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities, cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. So essentially, now it only costs 1 mana to untap Basalt Monolith with Zerta in play, and yes, you can tap Basalt Monolith for 3, so every single time you tap it, you can essentially net 2 mana by using 1 of the mana to untap it, then tap it again, and again, and again. Essentially, infinite colorless mana, and obviously that doesn't just win you the game, but there are plenty of ways to win from there. Next up, I mean, how about Cloudstone Curio, which again is just a card that probably works pretty well in this deck just as it is. Now, unfortunately, I think this is a decently expensive card, and I don't think it's ever been reprinted. Wait, let me check real quick. Thanks, Scryfall. Okay, anyways, $55.95. Yeah, that's expensive. There is an invention version of it, and I'm not going to count that as a reprint, an actual reprint. That thing is $184. So, yeah, very expensive. And the reason it's so expensive is that it is an artifact for 3 that says whenever a non-artifact permanent comes into play under your control, you may return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it to its owner's hand. So basically, play something that shares something, bounce it. Regardless, the combo with this one can actually make it so that you're not casting your commander for all that much mana because, well, you're going to combo with cards like Rograk and Crimson Kobolds. Rograk is, of course, an adorable commander itself, a 0/1 Kobold warrior for 0. And then Crimson Kobolds, of course, another Kobold, is a 0/1 that just costs 0. So essentially, when you get Cloudstone Curio in play, you can cast your commander for just 3 mana and go get either Rograk or Crimson Kobolds or any other creature essentially that costs 0 that is non-artifact. And then, yeah, you can just bounce your commander back to your hand. And then when you can, you cast your commander again to go get another 0 mana creature, which, again, is just going to cost you 3 to do so. You go get Crimson Kobolds then, which you then use to bounce Rograk back to your hand. Then you use Rograk, which costs 0 to cast it, bounce Crimson Kobolds back to your hand. Again and again and again. Now, obviously, this on its own just really does kind of nothing. I mean, it does give you an infinite storm count because you're casting things infinitely. It also gives you infinite ETBs and LTBs if you got anything in play like that. So, yeah, if you've got like an Impact Tremors already in play, great, you win. Now, of course, obviously, you can tutor up, say, Perforos or something else. I think there's actually a new creature from this set that basically is like an Impact Tremors. You can just tutor that up with your commander again because it's going to be back in your hand and win from there as well with those infinite ETBs. So again, this can be kind of mana intensive, but obviously Cloudstone Curio already works very well with this commander. So if you've got $55 just lying around, or $185 if you want that invention version, go for it. Or again, I should say, go for it if your playgroup is okay with that. But yeah, I mean, the actual play for this commander might just be, go get Protean Hulk, and then let Protean Hulk do all the work for you. It's a 6/6 beast for 5 green, and when it dies, you search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less and put them on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So yeah, if you've got a sacrifice outlet available, well, just, pay 10 mana in total, 3 for the Naya of your commander, and then 7 into that X to go get this right into play. Sacrifice it, then go search your library for, any number of creature cards that have that total mana value 6, like, hey, Temur Sabertooth costs 4, Dockside costs 2. Awesome! If my opponents have 5, artifacts and enchantments, I get infinite mana, infinite ETBs, infinite everything, I win! Now, obviously, again, there are probably more powerful decks out there that can utilize Protean Hulk, but still, it is definitely an option to consider if you want to get 2 creatures at the same time, or 3, or more, depending on, what you can do with that total converted mana cost of 6. But now since this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Rocco. And also, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of players out there calling their deck Rocco's Modern Life. Rocco's Modern Life. Rocco's Modern Life. And yeah, some of you out there might not know that reference, but that's okay. And yes, I know the name is spelled slightly different, okay? Names aside for commander decks, the implications for this commander are actually very significant. Obviously, again, you could just build, kind of like a toolbox commander deck where you're just going and getting whatever creatures you need for the situation that you're in. You could build a toolbox combo deck where you just have a ton of kind of, 2-card combos, and once you get one of the pieces in play, you just go tutor for the other piece. Or, of course, again, the possibility is out there that you could just build around a commander that, you have always wanted to build around that might not be legendary, or build around an actual legendary creature that you want to have extra colors. I mean, haven't you always thought Feather needed green? Just kidding, but I'm sure there's going to be some players out there that do that. Anyways, yeah, for an uncommon commander especially, this commander has a ton of potential, and I cannot wait to see what players do with it. That being said, there are a ton of other exciting spoilers, so make sure you check out my other quick takes that I've already done, and make sure you stay tuned for even more exciting spoilers coming up with more quick takes. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.